All right, it is 6 o'clock, so it's time for us to start our presentation. So I want to welcome any of our participants, and I see some people are continuing to join us. So we'll get started, and welcome to all of you, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Dennis Genich. I'm the Wellness Director for the Brockton Public Schools, and I can't thank you enough for joining us for this very important event. This is our free virtual vaping education event, and not only from the data that we see, we run many surveys in Brockton that tell us that vaping is really becoming a large issue and a big problem with all of our students. And I hear it from the community, I hear it from our parents, and from all of our surrounding community educators and parents as well. So we're hoping that tonight is the beginning of a series that we can do each year that will continue to connect us with everyone at home on the dangers of vaping and how to talk to your kids and your students about vaping. So I'd like to welcome some really important people, the people that make this all possible. First of all, Kevin DuPont, who's the Director of Instructional Technology here in Brockton. Kevin, thank you so much for setting this up for us and making this happen. And our primary presenters this evening, Gabby Sullivan, who is with Prevention Services at High Point Treatment Center, is going to be on our call tonight. And our primary presenter is Patrick St. Martin, who is with Greater Boston Tobacco Free Community Partnership. And Patrick's going to be our primary presenter. He has done just a lot of research and has some of the most current information on vaping and how to talk to your students about vaping. So welcome to everyone. You will have a chance to ask some questions in the chat, and I'm going to put Gabby on now. She'll tell you how that's going to work. So I hope everyone enjoys this. I hope everyone gets something great out of it. And this presentation will be recorded and available on our website at a later date, and we will have it translated as well into multiple languages, so it's available a little more widely through our community. So Gabby, you're up.
Thank you, Dennis. Like Dennis said, I am Gabby Sullivan. I work in prevention services at High Point Treatment Center and get to coordinate many different substance use prevention efforts in the city of Brockton, but also in the surrounding communities. So I'll be helping monitor the chat today. So if you have a question, we'll try to get to them at the end of the webinar. But if we do not, we will be sending out follow-up answers to the questions online, a link to Brockton Public Schools website. So I will pass it off to Patrick. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Gabby and John, for putting this together and allowing me to present to you all. Thank you all for taking your time. I know we all have busy lives, but this is really important information. So I'm glad that you guys took your time to join us. Also, thank you, Kevin, for all the technical support. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. So today I'm going to be presenting on e-cigarettes and vaping. Just to introduce myself, my name is Patrick St. Martin. I'm a prevention program coordinator, and I'm with the company called Bay State Community Services. And with them, I am the prevention coordinator for the Greater Boston Tobacco Free Community Partnership. All right, just to give a little background on what that even means. There's 8 tobacco-free community partnerships programs across Massachusetts. So I run the Greater Boston area, and this is funded by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health's Tobacco Cessation and Prevention Program. And pretty much what we do, we all work to prevent youth from starting to use tobacco and nicotine, and just to protect everyone from secondhand smoke and promote free resources to help people quit. So today we're going to be focusing on vaping, nicotine, just specifically due to our funding. We won't be able to get into much detail about marijuana. So the Greater Boston Tobacco Free Community Partnership works with local partners to fight tobacco and vaping industries' historic and unjust targeting of specific groups, including Black, LGBTQ+, and Latinx communities. So this collaboration with local partners is to prevent youth from starting to use tobacco and nicotine, to protect everyone from secondhand smoke, and to prevent free resources, once again, to help people quit. So we're going to start off just by looking at a graph just to see how far we've come with decreasing cigarette use. So cigarettes were pretty normalized 30 years ago, with over 35% of Massachusetts high schoolers regularly smoking. Research showed that cigarettes cause cancer in basically every organ of the body and is highly addictive. So we increased education, media campaigns, we passed policies, and this greatly decreased the cigarette use. And it also made cigarettes look gross and not cool anymore. Decrease in tobacco use is one of public health's greatest accomplishments in the US because of how many lives it has saved and how many lives it will save. However, this means that the tobacco industry is losing money. So pay attention to this graph. Now we're gonna add vaping onto it, okay? So now, as you see the use of cigarettes decreasing from 95 all the way to 2019, you can see that about 5 years ago, vaping comes along, okay? So now, these new vaping products started to really take off amongst the youth. So in the early 2000s, new tobacco products called e-cigarettes were introduced. Now, these initially were meant to help people quit cigarettes, but quickly the tobacco industry saw that e-cigarettes were appealing to the youth. So they saw a future with these e-cigarettes. It's a new, techie, flavored, and addictive product that the youth don't even associate with cigarettes. And now we see vaping as a major public health concern for our teens and all young people. We're seeing about 32% of Massachusetts regularly uses vape products. But one thing that I want to point out here is that 32% of youth at this time, I believe these statistics were about 2 years ago. So at that time, 32% of youth reported that they vaped, which is concerning. However, this means that 68% of youth in Massachusetts reported that they did not vape. This means that most youth do not vape, and that's a really, really important message to send out to the youth. So while vaping is a concern, not everybody's doing it as much as we hear people say everybody's doing it. We are going to get into some newer statistics a little later. So I'm going to go over some key things just to know about vaping nicotine. Once again, not focusing on marijuana, THC, and then we're going to go over some resources and what you can do about it. All right. So these vapes come in all shapes and sizes and colors. They look different. However, they all work the same way and have the same purpose. So the youth use different names for vape products. You know, sometimes they'll typically refer to them as vapes, or they'll call them by whatever their brand name is. So these products are still e-cigarettes, but the youth don't call them e-cigarettes, and they might not even know that they're using an e-cigarette. But if there's nicotine in it, it's an e-cigarette. So they have the rechargeables where the pods are pre-filled. So once again, I'm talking about nicotine today, but you know, other products like THC can be filled inside these pods. So instead of smoking the nicotine, they can smoke marijuana, in which they do as well. So these rechargeable e-cigarettes often look like small electronic devices such as USB sticks. Common brands that were used were Juul, Bo, My Blue, and they're frequently sold with pre-filled cartridges or pods. Now, they also have the disposable e-cigarettes, and these often appear to look like, they used to appear to look like actual filtered cigarettes in both shape and coloring. Those are the ones on the top left. Now, once again, these are the older style when they pretty much first came out. I'm going to show you the newer looks shortly, but it's helpful to note that many types of e-cigarettes are rechargeable, except the disposable e-cigarettes, which are disposed of after the initial charge of the battery is depleted. All right, so these are the newer looks of the disposable vapes. When you see the youth using them, these are most likely what they're looking like right now. These are disposable, and they often call them dispos or puff bars. Puff bar is actually an older brand, but they still They call it puff, you know, can I hit your puff, or can I have your dispo, or can you buy me a dispo? That's the terminology that they're much more so using right now. All right, so e-liquids and juices. So it's important to know what you're actually inhaling. So the e-liquids are made of nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin, and food flavorings, which are all chemicals. They're not just water. E-liquids can come in a container, like on the left, in a pod, or it's already pre-filled in the disposable vapes, like I mentioned before. E-liquids and juices come in so many different flavors. They can come in cotton candy, fruit punch, kiwi mango, blueberry rash, strawberry banana, peach lemon pies. Honestly, any combination you can think of, that's what these flavors are that are coming out right now. You know, and the flavors are often cited as the main reason that youth try to use these products. So the e-cigarettes and these other vaping devices are considered either open or closed systems. In open systems, the user adds the e-liquids or e-juices, and in the closed systems, the user uses a pre-filled cartridges or the pods. And the vaping devices convert the e-liquids into an inhalable aerosol. All right, so let's discuss vapor versus aerosol. So the e-cigarettes produce an aerosol, and aerosol does contain harmful substances. So what happens when you heat the chemicals in the e-liquid? I like to compare it to hairspray and water. If you take water and you splash it on your arm, the water comes off. If you spray hairspray on your arm, it sticks. Now, hairspray is an aerosol as well. That's very similar to what's happening when they inhale these vapes. The e-cigarettes produce this aerosol, and which is commonly called a vapor, and the users inhale it from the device and exhale. So now this aerosol contains harmful and potentially harmful substances, including nicotine, ultrafine particles that can be inhaled deep into the lungs, different flavorings that are linked to serious lung disease, organic compounds, cancer-causing chemicals, and heavy metals such as nickel, tin, and lead. E-cigarettes are so new that we don't even have long-term research of the health effects of heating and inhaling these chemicals and metals. But we do have some research about what happens when you inhale the food flavoring called diacetyl, I believe it's pronounced. But this is associated with causing something called popcorn lung, and this is the scarring of the lungs. So this causes coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, and causes irreversible lung damages. What we do have is long-term research on nicotine, and which is specifically harmful to the adolescent brain and very, very highly addictive. All right, nicotine and how adolescents are especially harmed. So vaping devices and e-cigarettes contain this nicotine, which is a highly addictive substance. Now, the nicotine affects a young person's developing brain. It affects the youth. The effects of youth nicotine exposure does include lower impulse control, depression or mood disorders, disruption of the brain circuits that control learning, and it can prime young brains for future drug addiction. And they do say that people who start smoking or using tobacco products in adolescence smoke more and even have a harder time quitting than people who start smoking as adults. So the nicotine can chemically and structurally change the makeup of a teen's developing brain. And they start having cravings for these e-cigarettes. They start feeling down or sad. They have trouble sleeping. They have trouble thinking clearly and concentrating. And then they also start to feel restless, jumpy or irritable, grouchy even. And this also causes them to have slower heart rates. They can start to feel more hungry or gaining weight. They can have stomach pains, headaches, dizziness. So the nicotine content in this brand called Juul. So Juul pods have an incredibly high nicotine concentration, which puts each puff from a Juul on par with the nicotine delivered from a puff from a traditional cigarette. Now, this is not the norm for e-cigarettes, but Juuls are more than double the maximum concentration allowed in the European Union. And the sale of Juul devices was recently banned in Israel because of the remarkably high nicotine content. So Juul first started to use nicotine salts, which allowed one to put more nicotine and just kind of makes it easier to go down. But before that, they were using free-base nicotine, which had lower concentrations of nicotine. So one thing that you think about a lot when you're thinking about youth vaping is what's influencing the vaping use. So I don't know if I can see the chat here. But I want a little participation. So I want everybody just to jump in the chat if everybody has access to it. Let me see. All right, yeah. So I want everybody to jump in the chat and tell me, what do you think is influencing vaping amongst the youth? Now, keep in mind, there's no wrong answers because there's so many different things that are influencing vaping amongst the youth. Gabby, I can't see the chat, so if you can just say shout out some of the things, please.
So the colors and flavors, their friends and social media, social peers. I said they feel like everyone's doing it. It's the cool thing to do. They want to be with the in crowd. The flavorings, the advertisement is appealing to the teens. Watching each other vape on social media, peer pressure, lots of good participation. Their parents are doing it. Social media, peer pressure, and thinking that the kids are getting pressured to do it. Thinking that there's no smoke, so it's not that harmful, and it tastes good.
All right. All right, now I can see the chat. I'm sorry, I just made you share your voice.
No problem.
Lack of information. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go over 3 things right now, and I actually think all 3 of those were just mentioned right now, which is great. Now, these aren't the highest influences, but these are just 3 influences. Okay, now the advertising, the flavor, and the nicotine. So I appreciate all the participation. Advertising is something that gets the interest. For example, look at this beautiful picture right here. They have a beautiful multicolored vape with fresh strawberries sliced down the middle, bananas, and every flavor that you see has advertisements that looks just like this with so many different flavors. So the advertising is what gets their interest. The flavors is what lures them in to buy it. And then the nicotine is what keeps them coming back. Thank you guys for the participation. That was wonderful. All right, same tactics, different products. Today's teenager is tomorrow's potential regular customer. And the overwhelming majority of smokers first begin to smoke while still in their teens. The smoking patterns of teenagers are particularly important to Philip Morris. So Philip Morris owns Marlboro, the Marlboro brand of cigarettes. And it's important to keep in mind that the tobacco industry has always been after making a profit, especially off of teens. They are always going to be the next generation of buyers. All right. These are just some more pictures of the new and emerging products and what they're typically looking like. But just to point out, these are a lot of them, but there are also many secret style vape products. I wish I had my bag with me because I'd show you on the screen, but when I go to school, sometimes I like to take the vapes that were confiscated. And we've seen vapes that look like USB drives. We've seen vapes, I think one of the coolest ones, not the coolest, I don't think it's cool, but it looked just like this, but it wasn't a highlighter. It was a dry erase marker. And when you take the cap off, that's the pod that they fill it up in. And I was at an event earlier today at the State House. I'm going to get into that a little later. And someone told me that they had to confiscate a vape that was the shape and looked exactly like an inhaler. All right. So the tobacco and vaping companies always introduce something very new and appealing. They appear to be introducing many types of e-cigarettes that are sleek, concealable, modern, and like I said, just something that you wouldn't even think is a vape. And some vendors even say that they can't even keep up with the volume of the new e-cigarette products. But the major tobacco companies and the independent companies are producing these types of e-cigarettes. Many of the e-cigarettes closely resemble the design feature of Juul. In addition to the Juul style, just like a USB style look, it's just a new concealable e-cigarette that has just been introduced in different types of shapes. And the companies are also now introducing pre-charged, completely disposable e-cigarettes. And these are what these look like. The ones on the right typically have about 5,000 puffs in it. The ones on the left can have anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 puffs in just one vape. All right, so now I'm just going to share some of the somewhat latest trends from a survey from the Center of Disease Control and Food and Drug Administration. So the CDC and the FDA analyzed nationally representative data from the 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey, NYTS, and this is a cross-sectional school-based self-administered survey in the United States. And they survey middle schools grades 6 to 8, high school grades 9 to 12. And this particular survey was conducted January 16th to March 16th of 2020. So the results of the 2021 NYTS, it just can't be compared to the results of the previous surveys due to some methodological changes. So this NYTS was fully conducted during COVID, the COVID pandemic. So that just affected a lot of the data. So the data that were collected online and in a variety of different settings. So among high schoolers, among high school current users, 26.1% reported that their usual brand was Puff Bar, followed by Views, Smoke, and Juul. Amongst middle school users, 30% reported that their usual brand was Puff Bar, and 12.5% reported Juul. 15% of high schoolers and 19% of middle schoolers reported that they don't even know the e-cigarette brand that they're actually using. All right, what you can do and resources. All right, so because of these tactics, Massachusetts has taken action by changing policy. Changing policy and the environment is one of the best prevention methods. Flavored tobacco products can only be sold for on-site consumption at smoking bars, hookah lounges, but not many exist in Massachusetts. They have to head out to Rhode Island usually for the hookah bars. But the smoking bars, once again, the product has to be consumed on site. So now this new law imposes a 75% excise tax on the wholesale price of the nicotine vaping products. And that's in addition to the 6.75 sale tax, which also took effect June 1st, 2020. So this brings parity with cigarette prices in the state, and that tax applies to devices as well. As far as insurance goes, it requires private insurers, the Group Insurance Commission, and Mass Health to provide coverage for tobacco use cessation counseling and all generic FDA-approved tobacco cessation products, with at least one product able to be with out-of-pocket cost. So the highest combustible cigarette, that's a regular cigarette, is called Cowboy Killer. And this is at 36 milligrams per milliliter. So now, the non-flavored vaping products with a nicotine content of 35 milligrams per milliliter may be sold in retail stores, and they're generally licensed to sell tobacco products, including convenience stores, gas stations, and other retail outlets. But keep in mind that these are not flavored vapes. So these vapes that they're buying from the gas station, the convenience stores, smoke shops, non-flavored, they call them clear. These are clear vapes. So keep in mind, many youth actually use the clear non-flavored vapes as well, but they still contain the same amount of nicotine. They're just not flavored. So there was also, this was something that was huge. There was also an increase in retailer fines for sales to minors. And these fines used to be $100, $200, and $300 for the first, second, and third violations, respectively, to $1,000, $2,000, and $5,000. And this also includes online sales. I actually recently spoke at a hearing at Randolph Town Hall, and there was 9 retailers who were recently caught selling to minors. And they had to come to try to appeal, talk about their fines. But I was there and I expressed to them that one way to help prevent the youth vape use is to block their access. So seeing that these flavors are already banned in Massachusetts and the youth buying it are actually too young, their store should be the absolute very last place that they're accessing these devices. All right, to know the signs of vaping. So vaping, these vapes have an unexplained sweet scent. With vapes, they don't have that harsh smell like cigarettes. They have a very sweet smell. I grew up in Brockton. I grew up in a Haitian household, and I know if I smoked a cigarette inside my house, or even if I smoked a cigarette outside and came into the house 20 minutes later, they would smell it on me and they would know exactly what it is. Now, this goes for all different cultures. All parents, all cultures know what a cigarette smells like. You smell it, you know exactly what it is. Now, these vapes don't smell like cigarettes, so it's hard to know if someone was smoking one. Some might explain this vaping scent as a fruity body spray even. So if you come across an unusual pens or unusual USB drives or unfamiliar batteries or battery charging devices, these could be associated with vaping. Signs of nicotine addiction: having strong cravings to vape or to use nicotine, feeling nervous, anxious, angry, or restless when they can't vape or use tobacco, having trouble concentrating, feeling the need to vape and use nicotine to feel better. Also, you have to pay attention to even just the youth leaving the room quickly, frequently, and returning back. You might even observe these signs of nicotine addiction, which include leaving the class frequently, just from the student feeling the need to use their nicotine, and symptoms of withdrawal when they have gone too long without vaping. And once again, this causes things such as anxiety, irritability, restlessness, difficulty concentrating, depressed moods, frustration, anger. So another thing that we need to think about is, we talked about how they are accessing this sometimes in stores. So we need to know, where are youth getting their vapes? So there has been a significant jump in the availability of vaping devices and liquids in 8th and 10th graders, with 45% and 66.6% respectively saying that the devices were fairly easy or very easy to get. Something else to know is, once again, where are they getting these vapes from? Especially now that we know that these flavored vapes aren't sold in Massachusetts, or they're not supposed to be sold in Massachusetts. So we hear that most youth will borrow or bum them from a friend. We hear that in high school, there's sometimes people who are like the go-to person to distribute them. And once again, we know that some youth are buying it straight from the retailers, and some of them are buying it with fake IDs, and some are just not checking IDs at the retailer. They're getting it from friends and social sources, and some youth are just accessing them online. I know online, when you try to purchase these, I'm not sure if there's other websites that don't check it out, but I know when you try to check out, as soon as you put in a Massachusetts address, it'll block your access. You can't get them. So I'm sure there are, black market sites that make it easier to access these devices. But if you hear that anybody is accessing these online, it is 100% illegal, and it should be reported to the Attorney General's office. Something we're hearing more is youth are just accessing them through Snapchat and other social media sites. So now we're going to get into tips for talking with your kids about vaping. All right, so I'm just going to stop just by to give a little background on myself. So I've worked in mental health for 16 years before recently transitioning to prevention. And the reason why I took this particular position was because I was experiencing these same things that you guys are here for right now in my own household. I'm married. My wife is a nurse practitioner. We have 4 kids. We have a 19-year-old boy, a 12-year-old boy, a beautiful 8-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old little gremlin boy. I know I said the girl was beautiful. They're all beautiful. But dealing with this in my own house and knowing how difficult it was, it made me want to educate not just the youth, but the parents as well, and the adults who work with the youth. I say in my house, I was focusing on prevention and intervention. One day I found a vape under my 19-year-old's pillow. I wasn't snooping or, looking for anything like that, but I think I was just fixing his bed, because you know how kids don't like fixing their beds. They think it's just going to get messy again, so there's no reason to do it again. But I found it. I brought it up to my wife, who was immediately ready to go to war. So it's important to remember that you need to be patient and you need to be ready to listen. Have a conversation. Try your best not to deliver a lecture. Try your best not to deliver a lecture. Avoid criticism and encourage an open dialogue. One thing that kids don't realize sometimes is that we were once their age. We do sometimes understand them. And if not, one thing that we know is that when our parents criticized us or gave us a lecture, it went in one ear and right out the other ear. And, sometimes we just found a better way to be sneaky about doing what we were doing. Also understand that there's no perfect time to talk to your kids. You could always mention that you heard about vaping, but my wife started yelling as soon as I told her about this situation. That's what she wanted to do. She didn't do that, but that's what she wanted to do. But what we needed to do was to stop and educate ourselves first. So I'm the calm one. So I did most of the talking. My 19-year-old, he goes to Assumption University. He plays basketball over there. So when we asked him, why he has this vape, you know, we got the typical, I don't know. So honestly, it'll take me too long to go over the whole conversation, but I explained to him that his adolescent brain is not even fully developed yet, which makes him get addicted to the nicotine quicker. And that nicotine is gonna affect the part of your brain that controls your attention. And keep in mind, you're in college. It affects your attention, it affects your learning, it affects your mood, and affects your impulse control. And not to mention, he has ADHD on top of this, okay? So other than this, it's the headaches, it's the coughs, the shortness of breath, the chest pains, the fatigue. And I had to tell him, bro, you're an athlete. You got to think about your health right now. But ever since then, I haven't seen any vapes in my house from him. We still talk about them though. I don't know if he stopped or if he's just being sneaky about it, but I'm hoping that he did stop. Once again, we still talk about it till this day. And one of the main things that I want you to take from this specific slide right here, continue to have these conversations. You cannot have these conversations just once. Continue to have these conversations. There'll never be a perfect time to talk, and there'll never be a perfect talk. Consider this talk as a learning experience for both of you, and just be completely transparent about not knowing the answers to everything. Now, that was me talking about the intervention process that I did in my own house. Now, also keep in mind what I said before. I have 3 other kids in which I have to work on prevention with, especially the 12-year-old who is being exposed to this at school. He's in middle school now. With him specifically, I started off just by asking him, what do you think about vaping? You can show them your genuine curiosity. You can ask what's your take on vaping? Do you know kids who are using e-cigarettes? When I asked him this question, he told me the first time that he does see them being used in school. He sees them used in the bathrooms. And people have asked him, but he's just said no, because he says he doesn't have any type of desire to try. He says it's gross, and he sounded very sincere, so I'm trusting him. But once again, I continue to have these talks with him. Think about when an adult is at a gathering, at a party, and when adults smoke cigarettes, where do they go to smoke? They step outside. They might go around the corner to the back of the house, the side of the house, even maybe on the porch, but they walk away from everyone. Now with these vapes, adults stand around everyone and just puff away on these vapes. So now, I also still have an 8-year-old, and even this 2-year-old are seeing the pretty smoke coming out of these devices. And one thing that I didn't point out earlier, that the majority of these devices have a colored light at the end of it. So each time that you inhale, the light turns on. So now kids are looking at this as early as ages of 8 and 2, and it's looking cool, and it's becoming already normalized to them. And the tobacco company is already working on kids as early as 2. And that's something that we don't really think about. So it is very, very important to educate the youth as early as possible. I have this conversation so much with my 12-year-old and my 8-year-old to the point where we see somebody vaping, I give them the look, and then they say, Dad, I know, I'm not ever gonna smoke. And then I still ask them, why not? And then they will recite everything that I've expressed about vaping. But you just need to remember to just be open and honest with them. You're not always going to be able to control everything that your children do when they're not with you. So talking to your kids about vaping will let them know that you're concerned about their health. And one way to take the conversation into action is just to practice refusal skills. For if they're in a type of situation where they might feel tempted to try tobacco. And once again, be truthful about what you know, but also about what you don't know. All right, tips for helping your teen quit vaping. So if you have a youth that is currently vaping, it's a very hard conversation to have. And just for them to be ready to start quitting, something that it just might be something that they just not be ready for, and you're gonna have to meet them where they're at. So how you can start off with helping your youth quitting is by asking questions and listening. Find out what they know about vaping and nicotine, and if they actually know what the harms are. Asking why they started, asking what products they're using, and the big question is why. Just another quick story. On Saturdays, my son comes home from school, and my niece, who also goes to Bridgewater State University, they both come over and they bring a few friends, usually about maybe 8 to 10 friends between the both of them. And we just started to try to create a safe, fun place for them to hang out on Saturday nights. You know, we play games, we listen to music, but sometimes when they bring their friends over, their friends come in and right in front of me, with no care in the world, pull out their blueberry raz and their pumpkin pie jelly, whatever flavors they got, and they will smoke it right in front of me. Now, the first couple of weeks, I confiscated them and I didn't give them back. And then my son and my niece, they, weren't too happy about that, But keep in mind, when I confiscate them, I'm also giving them, I'm not going to call it a lecture, but I take out my resources, I turn the music off, they hate it, but I do the same thing. I literally have like I call it a community feedback session where I ask them these same questions. Like, why are you smoking this? Where are you getting them from? Most of them that I've ever asked this question to, they are getting them directly from the retail stores. And the biggest question is why? And when I ask them why, I get the same thing my son gave me. I don't know. And then I also get, everyone is doing it. But one thing that I showed you earlier on in the beginning of this presentation is everyone is not doing it. We know the statistics, we see the statistics. So I just provide fact sheets and pamphlets for them, and I give it to them. I don't know if they read it. The next morning it's not on my front lawn, so I know it's at least in their cars, but I hope they take a look at it. All right, programs for youth and young adults. So just a reminder, nicotine addiction is a chronic relapsing addiction. It's something that's really hard to quit. There are these right here are two quit programs from Massachusetts. The first one is This Is Quitting, and this is from the Truth Initiative. And it's not a real person, but it's an automated text program where youth can text and get motivational advice on how to quit. Truth also has a number for parents as well that they can text to help their youth quit. My Life Might Quit is actually a real person who helps the youth quit. It's through the same program as 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and they have tailored programs specific to youth. They have programs for 12 to 17-year-olds. They also have a young adult program for ages 18 to 24. And they have features that are more relevant to youth, such as texting, online chatting, and additional phone calls. Once again, these materials are tailored towards youth vaping specifically, and these are all very free and confidential. Other than this, encourage the young people to ask their school nurse, their counselors, athletic coaches, doctors, parents, or just any trusted adult for help. Not For Me, Teen Smoking and Vaping Cessation Program. So this program is from the American Lung Association. So it's an online web-based program, and it's self-guided. So the youth can do it on their own time. It's completely free for them to use this. This is good if your youth or somebody else is interested in quitting, and they can just enroll in this online program and just do it on their own time. They also offer a program called Not For Me, and that's for somebody to be trained in it, and that you can deliver these you can deliver these trainings yourself in person in a small group format. And that's if your community wanted to do this. You can be trained to do this. Adults can quit tobacco products as well. As an adult, if you're using tobacco products, one of the best things that you can do is to set an example for your child and begin to quit yourself. We recommend calling the 1-800-QUIT-NOW for support and advice. This right here is called the Massachusetts Health Promotion Clearinghouse. This is something that I use all the time. So on this website, there's materials that you can order for free, absolutely free, from this Massachusetts Health Promotion Clearinghouse. Usually I hand a lot of these resources out, but this is virtual. So I'm not sure if I can add the link in here. No, I can't, but
I can add it.
okay, thank you. Can you see it there? Honestly, if you just go on Google and you type in Massachusetts Health Promotion Clearinghouse, I thought I had a link here, I apologize for that. But they have so much information on vaping. They have brochures, fact sheets, nurse guides, flyers, posters, etc. These are the things that I give out to the kids that I don't know what they do with them when they're done. But they have, once again, completely free, and they have 50 different topics from substance misuse to mental health and many other topics in between. Okay, here we go. There it is right there. I don't know if you guys have your phones out, if you want to take a picture of the link, or like I said, just go on Google. You can order it for a school that you work at. You can order it for yourself to hand out. You can order it to give to teens. But there's lots of information on here. Please take advantage of that, because I do. Best practices for e-cigarette and tobacco prevention. So there's been comprehensive town tobacco regulations. I'm actually not going to go through all of this, but one of the major ones that we talked about earlier was 2019 new tobacco law that banned flavored tobacco. Educating the community with local media, schools adopting prevention curriculum and policies, which is absolutely one of the most incredible ways to help this situation, is adopting a prevention curriculum inside the schools. Peer-to-peer education. There is something called the 84 movement that we're going to get into, which is huge. And parents and caregivers just talking to their kids early and talking to them very, very often. All right, starting an 84 chapter. So the 84 is a statewide movement of youth fighting tobacco in Massachusetts. It's formed through local organizations, middle schools, or high schools. So, and this, starting in 84 chapter, the youth will be able to be trained to educate peers, community members, legislators, etc. And they're educating them about the influence of tobacco and the vaping industries. What they do is they expose big tobacco's tactics about everything being sweet, cheap, and easy to get. It's inclusive for anyone that's in high school, anybody that wants to join. They participate in trainings, community activities, and mini grant products. And then they just work on these local policies and they attend statewide events. Earlier today, I was at an event at the State House, and these young leaders from Easton, specifically in this picture, they joined more than 200 youth from, I couldn't tell you how many different towns, but there was over 200 youth and adults all across Massachusetts, and they celebrated Kick Butts Day. And this was at the State House, and this was done for the first time since 2019. And that's because during COVID, it was done virtually. So it was amazing to get back out there and just see these kids and them talking to the legislators about everything that they're seeing. Today, the EMS 84 chapter at Easton Middle School received the Outstanding Chapter Award. This award is given to the chapter that shows consistent dedication and passion for youth tobacco prevention and amplifying a youth voice. So these chapters are something very, very important to have in your town. Kick Butt Day, once again, is a youth day of action. And it's an annual event that highlights how youth fight the influence of the tobacco industry in their communities. This is them with the legislator just taking photos after they kind of tore him a new one, but he was very supportive and he listened. This here is ACEs. This is an 84 chapter in Avon. And this is a picture with them with Erin O'Connor, who is Representative William Gavin's chief of staff. So once again, a little more about the 84 movement. It is a statewide youth initiative that empowers the young people to make a difference with by fighting tobacco in their own communities. Massachusetts youth, they started off the day today by educating all these legislators about the influence of tobacco and vaping industries in their community. They talk about what they care about most and what they're doing about it. These are the type of things that make a huge impact. One thing that I get a lot of requests to present to the youth. Under the grant that I'm under, one thing that I'm actually not able to do is to present to the youth. And that's just because it's not recommended, because one-time presentations are not found to be effective. One of the main things that we encourage them doing is to start an 84 chapter. So 84 represents the 84% of Massachusetts youth who did not smoke when the movement began. Now, this is very current, 93.4% of youth do not smoke. Now, the 84 will help you set up an 84 chapter in your school or your community. All you need is 1 adult and 5 youth to start a chapter. Now, they would provide education, free training for you to educate the youth in your school, and becoming a chapter also allows you to participate in statewide events like this, and also to receive funding to carry out other projects. Brockton actually does not have an 84 chapter to my knowledge right now. I work with a nonprofit organization called PAC, People Affecting Community Change. They did have one, but they're not active right now. So talking to the schools about joining an 84 chapter is huge. If you saw the kids there like I saw them, it was amazing. It touched my heart that they're so passionate about this. Other than this, we also recommend implementing an evidence-based program on vaping. So mass.gov has a school toolkit with so much information. In the toolkit is a program called Catch My Breath. Now, this is an evidence-based youth nicotine vaping prevention program for grades 5 to 12. It's proven to substantially reduce students' likelihood of vaping, and it's just highly recommended for schools to implement the Catch My Breath vaping prevention curriculum. It's currently being used in schools in all 50 states. That's also something that I can send to schools, give them more information. I'm going to put my information here at the end for anybody that wants to contact me or would like to talk to their schools to connect with me to implement this type of program in the school. As a parent, these resources right here can give parents of middle school and high school students the facts about vaping, industry tactics, and just anything about nicotine addiction. It encourages parents and caregivers to talk to their kids and to connect with them about quick resources. As far as youth, prevent young people from starting to vape, and that is by just supporting them. Support who's trying to quit. Encourage young people just to talk to and support each other. So one last slide that I just wanted to throw in, I actually added that to the slide today, just because I've been hearing and seeing a lot of this going on, is hookahs. What are the concerns about hookahs? So hookahs contain a lot of the same toxic chemicals as cigarettes. The charcoal being used to heat the tobacco can raise health risks by producing high levels of carbon monoxide, metals, and other cancer-causing chemicals. Even after it's passed through the water, the smoke from the hookah has high levels of these toxic agents. Hookah tobacco and smoke contain several toxic agents, and these are known to cause lung, bladder, and oral cancers. The tobacco juices from hookah irritate the mouth and increase the risk of developing these oral cancers. The water pipe smoke, the water pipe smoking delivers the nicotine, and it's the same highly addictive drug that's found in all the tobacco products that we were talking about earlier. Now, the tobacco and the nicotine is exposed to the high heat from the burning charcoal, and the smoke is at least as toxic as cigarette smoke. The heat sources used to burn the hookah tobacco release other dangerous substances as well, like carbon monoxide, and they may put hookah users at additional risk. Once again, hookahs are not something that you typically see in Massachusetts. They're usually in the Rhode Island area, but there are some bars. But once again, you would have to use these flavored, you would have to smoke them on site because they do have flavored tobacco shisha. But these hookahs are also sold at gas stations, smoke shops in Massachusetts. They just have to go through the same difficulty of finding the flavored tobacco somewhere else, the same way that they find the flavored vapes. But they take these and they use them at home. They party with them, they bring them on vacation with them, but this is something that's definitely concerning as well. All right, these are just some references, and for more information, once again, my name is Patrick St. Martin. Thank you for taking your time and to listen to me talk about vaping and to express to you, and at the same time vent about my own situations that I've dealt with. And if you want to take a picture of my contact information to contact me about anything, you guys are all more than welcome.
Patrick, thank you so much for just an outstanding presentation. I think it's really apparent some things that we all learned in this, vapes that are shaped like inhalers, scary stuff, all the multicolored lights, that the fact that there is no safe vape. I think we all understand that the laws are great. It's great to have laws, but the parent involvement is the thing that will really have the impact, and the constant talking to your kids. So like Patrick said, stop and educate yourself first and continue to have these conversations with your kids and your students. Patrick, I hope we can have you back another time to do something similar for us again. Just a great job. So thank you very much, Patrick and Gabby. And thank you to all of our people who attended. We thank you very much for your time. We hope this was a valuable lesson for everybody today. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for everybody in the chat as well.
Take care. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good evening.